Welcome back. The Herd is coming up next here on FS1. Doug Gottlieb is in for Colin. Hey, Doug, what is on the show today?
Well, Packers are looking for a head coach, and one name has come up in the coaching search that is going to make everyone roll their eyes, chuckle a little bit, and try and figure out what in the heck are the Packers doing. We'll bring up that name at the top of the hour in the Herd.
All right, Doug, thanks. Time for our final topic of the day. Derrick Rose got a hero's welcome and even heard MVP chants in Chicago last night. He scored 24 points in the city where Rose spent 8 seasons and won an MVP award. Rose is having a great season, averaging nearly 19 points per game. Shannon, how impressive has he been?
Skip, this has been really impressive, and I'm glad to see the resurgence because those injuries robbed him of a promising career. Skip, when he came into the league, he was the most athletic point guard we'd ever seen. He was a point guard that could play above the rim.
Yep.
And then, Russ comes along and does what he does, but people forget just how athletic this young man was.
Mm-hmm.
What we're seeing now, Skip, gives you a glimpse of why he's the youngest MVP in NBA history, because he's 25 and 8. I think he was, 21 years of age. He was special. Mm-hmm. He was special, and then the knee injury, and then what came along with that, and then the ankle injuries. And then in Cleveland, Skip, they shipped him to Utah with that trade, and they just waived him. And he found a home back with Tibbs,
his old coach.
And he's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm. He is making 46% of his three-point shots. I thought that would be impossible because the best he ever shot was 34%. Mm-hmm. And yet, he's not even a starter for this team. He comes off the bench because Teague's the point guard, obviously. So all this said, all that he's done for this team, they're still 16 and 18, and they're in 13th spot in the West. And I don't get that because your team has more firepower than that.
Yes.
With him coming off the bench playing that way, you should be way better than this, and maybe they'll take off.
And he says he wants to win Most Improved. Well, he's well on his way, and he's going to get strong consideration for 6th Man of the Year.
That's it for us. We'll be back tomorrow morning, 9:30 Eastern. Right now, Doug's going to tell you why things are already going poorly in the Packers coaching search. The Herd starts right now. The Steelers are still in the playoff hunt, but they need some help. The easiest way for Pittsburgh to make the playoffs is beat the Bengals on Sunday and hope the Ravens lose to the Browns. The Steelers have lost 4 of their last 5, including a heartbreaker against the Saints, which included a fake punt late in the 4th quarter that did not work. Joined once again by James Harrison. James, who is most to blame for the Steelers' disappointing season?
I would have to give that to Mike Tomlin, and the reason I give it to him because he's the head coach. He has to go out there and get this team ready. You've had instances where the defense plays well, you had instances where the offense plays well, and you know that they're capable of doing that. If you look at the defense that he's actually built, I think he has 6 or 7 first-rounders. He has a couple second-rounders through either draft or trade. So he's put together a defense that should be capable of going out there and stopping offenses. And I think at the end of it, the Achilles heel has been the defense not able to come through in the end. So, I have to put that on Mike Tomlin, even though he has, won a significant amount of games. He's won Super Bowls. But if you even look at that and you go back, the Super Bowl that he did win was basically a Bill Cowher-based team. The team that actually went in 2010 was still a majority of Cowher. And since then, I think he's reached the AFC Championship game 1 time. And over the course of the last 2 years, he's lost just the first game to Jacksonville, where the defense gave up 40, 50-something points. And, this year they have a possibility of not making it. So all that has to go on Coach Tomlin.
Yeah, I'm going to give the lion's share of the blame to Coach Tomlin also, because I don't think he did a good enough job of controlling the auxiliary noise that was emanating from his locker room. I said this early on, James. You played 14 years? 15. I played 14. I never heard, because the one thing that we don't do in the locker room, we talk about another man's money.
Never.
And when it comes to a contract, we always side with the players. This was the first time I can honestly say I'd heard players side with the organization over a player about getting his money. And they were speaking. I'm like, what is this about? And that's what I was like. I remember talking to you, Skip. I was like, I don't know how Le'Veon comes back in there, knowing how the offensive linemen feel about him and how they hold him accountable. Some of the same offensive players had a problem with James Harrison after he got released. They want him to go sit on this couch, not do anything, not get a chance to win a Super Bowl. So he's like, nah, I'm going up here. This team won't me. I'm going up here and try to get, I'm going to get a little money too. I get a chance to play for a Super Bowl. I think Mike got to do a better job because, man, being quick to point them fingers. He needs to do a better job. What he should have done from the beginning, like, look, guys, until Le'Veon gets back, we're not going to discuss Le'Veon Bell. We're going to talk about the guys that we have in this locker room that's going to be here from the jump. So if and when he comes back, we'll discuss that situation. So anytime his name comes up, I would prefer you refer them to me. We're not going to discuss it. They discussed this early on. The organization also bears some culpability because they told Le'Veon Bell what else did they need to see? The guy played till the ink was dry on his contract. They franchised him. Le'Veon, I think, came to the realization, I see what y'all trying to do. Y'all want to put another 400 carries on me, use me up, and then say, nah, we good. He said, no, that's not going to happen. So I'm going to sit this whole year out. Skip, they got too many voices coming out of that locker room. They're not a very united team.
They're not.
Because okay, we're going to stay in the locker room. We're not coming out for the anthem. Coaches go stand, and then we got guys at the end of the tunnel, and guys need to see the flag. So there's a lot going on. But until Mike Tomlin sets the temperature of this room, say, this is how we're going to do it. This is not how we're going to do it. You're going to have these little fractions. You're going to have guys speaking out, and it's not conducive for you to have a winning organization. You win a few games here or there, but they vastly underachieved. They're one of the most disappointing teams in all of football.
All right, so I'm going to ask James a question, just to be fair to Mike Tomlin. And I'm not saying this is the case, but do you feel like you still have any lingering bitterness toward Mike on the way they handled your departure from Pittsburgh?
No, I asked for a release, like I said, early in the year, and they didn't give that to me. If they had gave me my release early in the year, I probably would have never been in New England.
Because there were times I remember that I read you showed up and you didn't even know that you weren't dressing for that game.
It was times where I practiced all week and show up, and I'm thinking I'm going to be dressed. Uniform, not in the locker.
So, now, that said, as many times as I've said on the show, I love Mike Tomlin from a distance, and if I could play in the NFL, I'd want to play for that guy, but I don't know him inside the locker room, and I'm with you and both of you. He does not have control of his football team, and it shows on the football field occasionally in the lack of discipline and focus that they play with or without, I should say, because if you boil down what's wrong, and again, to your point, they're ranked 15th in points allowed. It's got to be better. That's not steel curtain Pittsburgh defense. This defense, and again, it came alive against Brady, and it came alive a little bit against the Saints. I thought it played pretty well in those two games, but you don't have anything to show for it because you're 8-6-1, and you're just clinging to the last life that you have, the playoff-wise.
You lost 4 or 5.
You have. You've lost 4 or 5 games, and yet in those those last 5 games, you went to the fourth quarter, and all 5 of them tied or leading, and you lost 4 of 5. Okay, somebody's got to pay for that. A lot of times, you give the game away because they're -10 in turnover ratio. And you know and I know, you guys have been around good teams before. You can't be -10 and be a Super Bowl type team, right?
You'll be minus the playoffs.
You'll be minus the playoffs. So why are they -10? Because they gave the ball away 25 times. Why was that? Because Ben threw 16 interceptions and they lost 9 fumbles, and 2 of them were Ben's lost fumbles. So it's not clean enough. You know, they have all this firepower. They're 4th in points scored, and Ben's, 3rd in QBR. So there's lots of
to throw for 5,000 yards, isn't he? He's like 4,800 yards or something.
48, 42. That ranks first in the NFL. And it got you 8-6-1. It got you a tie against Cleveland. You can't do that. It got you a loss at Denver. That's no good. And you know what happened at the end of that game.
And Oakland. Really?
You lost to Oakland. Okay.
Really?
Okay, so is it fair for us to conclude that Mike Tomlin deserves to lose his job? Yeah, it is fair. Do you think he really will? I don't, because they just don't do that.
I don't really think it's fair to say that he should lose his job. That's just really not something the Steelers do. I think worst case scenario, he'll be playing his last year on his contract next year, and if things don't pan out the way they want him to pan out, they'll let him go. I don't see the Steelers firing him. That's just not in. That's just not what that organization does.
They've had 3 coaches since 1950, and all of them retired. Chuck Noll retired, Bill Cowher retired, and then Mike Tomlin got the job. He's in year 15, year 16 right now. So I think he's the second longest tenured with one team behind Coach Belichick. Coach Belichick's been there since 2000. Mike Tomlin's been there since 07?
07.
So I don't
Seven,
see
yeah.
I don't see him going anywhere anytime soon. But there's too many things, Skip. The mere fact that, Ben speaking the way he does is calling out his teammates. Antonio Brown recording. I mean, you beat Kansas City and the dude is Facebook Live. What other team
And he put you in put Tomlin in a bad spot because Tomlin's ripping on New England.
Right.
Yeah.
Can that change, though, if he just suddenly is stricter, he sets the temperature, the tone differently? Can players adapt to that, or is this just who he is?
I'll be honest with you, I don't know if players can adapt to that because you've been used to a certain standard for so long that if you try and change that now, the players are really going to revolt against you.
Yep.
That's why it's easy to be nicer. You come in and you lay the gauntlet down because I can always, pull the reins in.
Right.
It's hard to tighten the reins once I've been a certain way for an extended period of time. See, Coach Coughlin, like Coach Belichick, it's easy for Coach Belichick because he's already established who he is and what he is. So if he wants to give you a day off, you can accept that. But, man, Mike, you better get